Welcome to Coach Bennett's podcast, where every run has a purpose, where kindness is hardcore, where this is about running, and this is not about running, where every starting line is a finish line in disguise, where rambling still gets you where you need to be, where pineapple will never ruin your pizza, and the sodas, adult and not adult kind, are always cold, and where there is room on the starting line for everybody. I'm Coach Bennett. Thank you for letting me be a part of your day. Let's get started. Welcome to episode 75 of Coach Bennett's podcast. That's right, we are 3/4 to the century mark in Coach Bennett's podcast, and this one is entitled Endurance. And I decided this morning, very early this morning, I woke up, it was still dark. It was probably 2 hours before I had planned on waking up. And I thought, you know what? We're doing endurance today. And I'm excited about doing this episode because I think it's an important one. I think it's something that we need to talk about right now. And I think it's going to help you become a better runner. And obviously, I also think it's going to help you become a better person because this one, as all of the other ones are, about running and not about running. So I hope you enjoy this. In fact, I'm going to go out on a limb, and it's a strong limb. It's not like a weak branch. This is a sturdy limb, a limb that you would look at and say, we should hang a swing on this branch, and we can sit on it, and we can swing underneath it, and maybe we even put like a tire swing on there so the kids can get on there and they can have some fun, and we'll sip lemonade on the porch, and we'll watch the kids take turns on the beautiful little tire swing that we got rolling. I don't know what kind of a tree this would be. I don't know much about trees. I just know that I love trees. I wish I actually knew more about trees, but I don't. So maybe someday I'll become like an arborist. Is that someone who loves trees, or is that someone who actually works with trees? If you know the answer to that, let me know so I can actually give credit where credit is due and I don't have some arborist being like, look, just because you know about trees, that does not make you an arborist. It just makes you a tree lover. And that's fine. I'm cool with that term too. I would love someday to be a knowledgeable tree lover. You know what I mean? All right, let's move on. Let's answer a few questions here that I think need to be answered for us to be a valuable episode for all of you. And that's going to be, what is endurance? Why do we need endurance? How do we get endurance? And how do we build up endurance, right? I mean, I think without answering those questions, I'm not going to say this is a total waste of your time, but it's a partial waste of your time. So you know what I did. I opened up the dictionary. Of course I opened up the dictionary. Why would I not open up the dictionary for a word like endurance? What a great word. And the word endurance, as I'm sure you've guessed, it's a noun. It's a noun. And definition number one, it's a good one. Definition number one's coming in hot. The ability to withstand hardship or adversity. Endurance, the ability to withstand hardship or adversity. I like it. Definition two, the act or instance of enduring or suffering. The act or instance of enduring or suffering. So I imagine if I were to have a conversation with any of you and say, let's talk about running, and let's talk about what endurance means. Most of you, I would imagine, because I've had conversations with so many of you, would say something in the neighborhood of, well, endurance in running means the ability to run for a long time. Now, that's a good answer. Absolutely. I think it's a valid answer. I think there's a lot of, loose ties that we've got to figure out because, I mean, what do you mean a long time? What does a long time mean? So there's going to be something in there that is personal, which is very important. Anytime I'm talking about running, you, the listener, you have to personalize this because endurance means different things for different people. The concept of it may be the same, but someone out there may be thinking, you know what? When I'm thinking of building up endurance, when I'm thinking about me having endurance, I'm thinking about the ability to go out and run for a mile or 2K. Someone else may be thinking about, well, for me, it's getting through 60-minute runs. For someone else, it may be, I like to do ultras and it's getting through 50K runs. Some people may just say, for me, endurance are my long runs each week. They're not even thinking of it in terms of minutes, meters, and miles. For them, it's a concept like a long run. Now, here's the thing. If you look at the definitions, the nouns, those first and second definitions, the ability to withstand hardship or adversity, and the act or instance of enduring or suffering. Now, suffering is a pretty loaded term, so, I'm sure if you've run enough, you would equate some of your running with suffering. But my point is, any run you do can and should aid in you building up, strengthening, adding to your endurance. Any run. So it's not just the mile run or the 50K ultra. It's not just your long runs. It's not just the hour runs. It's all of the runs. And I want to put that in there as a baseline here at the start, because when we talk about endurance, we're not just talking about the longest runs you possibly do. Everyone, for some reason, I shouldn't say everyone, lots of people, most people, for some reason, when they think of endurance, they only think of the longest things they do, or their inability to go longer. And they think, I need to work on my endurance if I want to go longer, and I only work on my endurance when I go long. That's not true. And you don't take advantage of your endurance only when you're running long, or your long run, or when you're trying to go further than you've ever gone before. Okay? And I think over the course of the show, you're going to realize that. You're going to learn that if you don't know it already. And if you do know it already, great. What you know will be reaffirmed, which is wonderful, right? That feels good. Now, if you don't think any of this, well, then you're going to find out something new and exciting. And maybe you're going to realize you're wrong, which is also awesome. You know, I've never understood people that get upset when they find out they're wrong. Yes, maybe you're upset because you wish you knew earlier, because then you wouldn't have spent some of your life being wrong about something, but you shouldn't be upset that you found out the correct answer, the truth. All right? Just something to think about. And by the way, I should just throw this in because I think it fits. You should surround yourself in your life with people that will stand up to you when you're wrong. That you want people in your life that will call you out when you're not telling the truth or you're backing the wrong horse. You know what I mean? That's what you want in your life. You want people in your life that will stand behind you when you're in the right, and they will stand up to you when you are in the wrong. I hope that all of you have people like that in your life, because you will have a better life, not one that's built on complete and total BS because the people around you think that your relationship will suffer if they tell you the truth. And sometimes the truth is, you're wrong, fool. You know what I mean? And that's okay. I've been told I've been wrong many a time. And I'm so happy that I have these people in my life that will tell me, dude, you're not right. You're wrong. And often I will actually argue with them and say, no, I'm right. And then they'll show me. And then I concede and say, whew, wow, you actually were right. And I'm better for it. I am better for it. And this goes also, I know I'm on a little bit of a ramble, but we're working on endurance here, so just get through this with me. The other thing is, if you have serious beliefs, okay, you should want people to try to poke holes in them. You shouldn't be upset that someone is going after one of your beliefs and trying to tear it up, because this offers you the opportunity to stress test said belief. And if you can't handle somebody stress testing your belief, maybe you don't really believe in what you're saying you believe in. I'm just going to throw that out there. I've known a lot of people in my life that have these hardcore beliefs, and the second you challenge them, they get very, very defensive, as opposed to, listen, I've got faith in what I believe in. Here you go. Come on, let's go. Let's stress test this. Those people are the most confident. Those are the true believers, the ones that welcome a really great conversation or argument, and an argument doesn't have to be negative, okay, when it's coming to their beliefs. Bring it on, stress test it. I've had to do this with my coaching. I've had to do this with things outside of my coaching. You want to debate it? Let's go. Because worst case scenario for me would be, whoops, there are some holes. And then I have to figure out, how do we fill in these holes, or are they just holes? Are they just holes in what I believe in, what I am espousing as principles or philosophy in my life? And that can be coaching, non-coaching, whatever. So there we go. We got a big ramble out of the way, but I think it was a worthy one, and you endured, okay? We're going to get to that word in a little bit too. So endurance, again, noun, the ability to withstand hardship or adversity. 2, definition, the act or instance of enduring or suffering, okay? Now, let's talk about endurance in running. Now, I already hinted at the fact that most of you would equate it with your longer runs, your ability to run far, whatever that may be. You personalize it. Right now, maybe you can only run for 5 minutes at an easy pace before you say, I can't go any further. Maybe you can go 50 minutes. Maybe you can go 50K. Maybe you can run for 5 hours. Okay? Personalize it to you right now. What does it mean to you? Own your fitness. Own your endurance. So the question would be, okay, well, how do we use this? Well, I just kind of explained it because we have a spectrum here, right, of what endurance could mean for people. So if right now your endurance is parked at 5 minutes, you may be thinking, you know what? I'd really like to be able to run 10 minutes comfortably. All right, well, we're going to have to work on your endurance. We're going to have to work on your ability to withstand, in this case, hardship or adversity. I mean, I don't like referring to, running as hardship or adversity, but it's effort, right? The hardship is the maintenance of running, continuing to run, going further, and not being completely maxed out. Because what you want is your endurance to be greater than the running you're doing, just like you want to be stronger physically than the running you're doing. And when I say that, there's a couple things that I also want to just throw out here. When I'm talking about endurance, most people just think of the physical side of it. Well, if you can physically, run for 50 minutes, the endurance side, the physical endurance side of it, you can physically run comfortably for 50 minutes. But mentally, mindfully, you cannot, because lots of people can't. Well, then we have to work on your mental or mindful endurance. So I don't want us to just be thinking endurance only means the physical side of it. There are so many runners out there, and I know there are so many runners listening right now to this podcast that are thinking, yeah, my biggest issue is I get to a certain point in the run where it's not so much physically taxing to the point I have to stop. It's mindfully taxing. It's mentally taxing. It's emotionally taxing. I just can't get myself to keep going, even though physically I'm not having issues. All right? So when we're talking about endurance, you also can choose, well, which endurance are we talking about? Because how you build it is very similar, whether it's mindful endurance or physical endurance, okay? So you have kind of the ability to play with this menu today and decide, okay, are we talking about the physical side? Are we talking about the mental side, the mindful side? All right. So how do we build endurance? Well, you know what I'm probably going to say first. I'm not probably going to say what I am going to say first, which is consistency. If you want to build up endurance, one of the tools of endurance and one of the traits of endurance, so you got both, I don't know which one comes first, is consistency. Consistency means working on it day in and day out, right? Now, I'm not saying every day, but consistently going for runs is going to aid in your ability to endure runs, to build the endurance up, to be able to progress from 5 minutes to 7 minutes to 10 minutes to 20 minutes to 50 minutes, from 1K to 4K to 12K to 20K. By consistently running, you're going to be able to build endurance. Now, we could just stop right there. If you consistently run, you're going to build endurance. Now, if you're consistently running the same distance, you're still going to be building endurance. It's just that then you're basically getting a ceiling. So if you go out for a 5-minute run today, it's your first run you've ever done, you're struggling a little bit mentally, mindfully, you're like, oof, this is really tough. And then 2 days from now, you go out for a 5-minute run and, at least now you know what it feels like. You can anticipate certain issues. You know that when you get to the end of the block, you're about halfway done, and that felt like a long time last time. But now you're a little bit more aware. And then 2 days later, you do it again. There's a little bit less anxiety at the beginning because you've now done it twice. When you turn around at halfway, at the end of the block, and you head back home, it's a slight downhill, so you're feeling good about that. 2 days later, you do it again. It's suddenly getting easier. You are building endurance just by maintaining 5-minute runs. You're building endurance. Now, if you do this for the next 10 years, your ability to probably go for a 7, 10, 15, 20-minute run has improved. The likelihood that you could handle one of those runs has improved. But then you get to a point where, okay, the 5-minute runs are not helping you get to 50K. They're not helping you get to 50 minutes. You're going to have to progress more. You're going to have to increase the volume of the minutes, the meters, the miles. You're going to have to also look at different types of endurance on the physical side, right? Like your pace should improve to a certain point. Now, this would also be, up to you. Like, do you want to mix up your 5-minute runs? You're going to run some of them really hard, some of them really easy, or you're going to start some of them very easy and finish a little bit harder. Just doing that is increasing the diversity of your runs, which is also going to increase your fitness and your endurance. And we're just staying at 5 minutes. Like I said, you now can actually go longer if you wanted to. And if you compare it to day one, there's your proof of endurance. There's your proof of progression. Day one, you couldn't have gone for 20 minutes. But now you can, even though you've only been doing 5 minutes. But like I also said, then eventually that level of endurance cannot take you further because you haven't worked on it. You haven't pushed the boundaries that are constantly being set, broken down, reset, broken down. You haven't pushed out beyond, which is how you progress, how you get better than your best. So we know consistency is important. I just hinted at the fact that increasing minutes, meters, miles, progression is important. I've also mentioned already mixing up the type of runs that you do, which I bring up all the time, the diversity in training, mixing up your training, having different paces, having different efforts. Those types of things will all aid in your endurance getting built, having a larger base of endurance, being able to go further. Now, the other thing here, which is also a type of endurance, is speed endurance, being able to go faster for longer. Some of that is just basic fitness. But remember, that basic fitness is probably centered around your recovery runs being able to be faster and longer as you're getting fitter. But you have so many different paces, speeds, and efforts inside you, right? They're not just all recovery runs. Like you've got different types of runs inside you, whether you do them or not. You've got tempo runs if you want to do tempo runs inside you. You've got the ability to do a fartlek run if you want to do a fartlek run. You have the ability to do intervals if you want to. You can do hill repeats. There are so many different things you can do and work on, and they all tax you in different ways, which means they're going to use your endurance in different ways, which also means you should incorporate in your training ways to progress, build your endurance in different ways. So when you are taxed to run 1,500 meters, well, that's a very different type of endurance you're going to be tapping into than when you go and run a recovery run 1,500 meters. They're very different mentalities. They're very different emotional states we go through, and they're wildly different efforts, racing 1,500 meters and just going for an easy run that's 1,500 meters long. So what that also is telling you is that these other types of training will aid in your endurance. They will help you. They will make you an athlete that has more endurance. Okay, so what I'm trying to tell you is all of those, ingredients that I bring up consistently, like consistency and diversity and training, well, they're there because they are foundational. They help all parts of your running. Now, here's the thing. When we think about endurance and we think about building out endurance, increasing our endurance, we're thinking about what? We're thinking about going longer. Again, whether that means minutes, meters, miles, distance, duration, whatever, or, I should say or/and, we're thinking about going faster for longer, right? Building up some of that speed endurance. Well, I have to stress here, in order to do that, you need to be stronger than what you're doing, right? If you're progressing and increasing those minutes, meters, and miles, which is what most new runners do, or runners that are coming back to the starting line after a big race or after an injury, after a sickness, after some time off, whatever, you slowly, intelligently are increasing the volume of your training. You intuitively know how to build endurance, is what I'm saying. Now, the other side of this is, after a certain point, that athlete that was on day one, that is strong enough to start and strong enough to get through the first week of training and the second week of training, well, eventually you progress, which is badass, but you progress in a way where now the minutes, meters, and miles are at a level where you as an athlete on day one, you're no longer stronger than the training. Now, it may feel like you are because your cardio is like through the roof and you're like, I could run forever. Yeah, but from an athletic point of view, from an athlete point of view, you are no longer stronger than the running you're doing. And that's where we can break down. And our reaction sometimes is, I need to do more because I'm not progressing the way I was. And it's no. It's not more running. What you need is more strength training. You need to become a stronger athlete so you are stronger than the running you're doing. And that means to build endurance, we're also going to have to incorporate some consistent strength training. We're going to have to develop the musculature on our body to say, hey, guess what? I'm no longer running 5 minutes a day. I'm running 15 minutes a day. And I'm no longer running 2 days a week. I'm running 4 days a week. So what was 10 minutes of running to begin with is now 60 minutes of running over the course of the week. Well, are you physically stronger than the 60 minutes? Because if not, eventually you're going to either break down or plateau. And you're not going to be able to progress. And your first inclination is, I'm not running enough or fast enough. When your body is really saying, no, it's not that. You're just not strong enough. So that's something I want you to think about, that if you want to build endurance, it's not just about going further, all right? A lot of people think it's more volume, more minutes, more meters, more miles, more days of running. And a lot of times it's more lunges. It's more wall sits. It's more calf raises. It's more time strengthening your hips and your hip flexors. That's the most important thing, because we are no longer going to be able to increase the volume of our running unless you increase the strength of the athlete that's doing the running. All right? So that's just something to think about. You want to be stronger than you're running. Now, outside of the strength training and the running, what else can we do that's going to aid our endurance? Well, I can talk about fueling, and I can talk about hydrating, I can talk about sleeping. I feel like we know those things. Obviously, I could sit here and say you need X amount of hours of sleep. I'm not going to do that. What I am going to say is whatever amount of sleep you can get, and then just make it better sleep. It's the same thing with fueling, okay? The healthier you fuel, the better. But you know what? I had wings and pizza 2 days ago, and I loved every single bite of it, and it was fantastic. And you know what I had with it? A ton of celery and a ton of carrots, which was good. And I had some broccoli. Why? Because I was dipping some of this stuff in ranch. I know. You can judge me. I don't really care. It was delicious, and it was fantastic. But I have so many more vegetables when I'm having wings and pizza than I used to, as kind of like, hey, I'm going to use this as a moment to pound carrots and broccoli. Okay, that's what I'm going to do because I love this. And it just came to me because I thought, if I'm going to have wings and pizza and just absolutely love it, how can I also make this a little bit better but I made it a little bit better by pounding veggies. So that's just something I'm going to say. It's a little sidebar because I'm not going to get into nutrition right now. But I am going to talk about stress, because stress not only saps endurance, but it also delays our progression and can lead to us actually taking steps back. It can lead to us losing endurance if we can't manage the stress in our life better. I'm going to start with toxic people. You need them out of your life, okay? If they can't get rid of their toxicity, you need to get them out of your life. You need to think of people almost as like inputs, almost like nutrition. Is this something that I'm allowing into my life, like a food into my body, that is devastating in its harm to me? Or is it something that is invigorating me, making me better, stronger, leading to more endurance? If you have people in your life that are so negative to your well-being that your endurance is suffering, meaning a great example would be, are there people in your life that lead to you being exhausted at the end of the day? Not in a great way, not like I spent time with her and all we did was laugh and we hiked and we had a great time and I was able to cry because I had this built up emotion and I was able to share it with her and it was so wonderful. And, oh, I'm wiped out. I'm going to sleep like a baby tonight. That's a great, positive, glorious exhaustion. But if it's somebody where you think, you know what, every time I'm with this guy, I feel worse about myself. I'm stressed out. I'm anxious. I lose confidence. I start bad-mouthing other people just to stay on par with his vibe. I feel gross when I leave him. I feel so negative. I don't feel good. You don't think that's going to have an effect on your running? You think having that in your life, that kind of an input that leads to negative outputs in how you act, what you say, isn't also going to have a negative effect on the output of effort you're able to give over a period of time, minutes, meters, miles? Of course it is. We all need to start looking at people in our life and say, listen, I am willing to work with you where you can actually be beneficial to me, and I will work to be beneficial to you in terms of what we give, in terms of our humanity. And if there are people in your life that make you a worse human, then you need to not have them in your life. That's it. It's like social media. Social media can be a wonderful thing, okay? I don't think it's ever going to be like a perfect thing, because there's nothing that's perfect. I don't think it's ever going to be like even truly great, but it can be pretty wonderful, especially if you cut the trolls out. You don't have to go back and forth with them. You don't have to spar with them. So many of them are in there simply to bother you. They're not doing this from a place of respect. They're not doing this where they're saying, you know what, here's the contract, right? Like, we're going to be strangers, and I'm going to argue with you and respect your opinion and respect who you are, and we're going to shake hands at the end of it. There are some people that are there, they're saying, I just want your day to be ruined. And all you need to do is give me access, give me time. And there are people like that. And if they ruin your day, your endurance gets cut. Your endurance to do the good things. Your endurance to help other people. It takes a lot of energy to help other people. And if you have just life suckers in your life, your ability to help others and yourself diminishes. No one in your circle should diminish you. Now, here's the thing. I just want to throw that out there. That's not to say we don't have people in our life that take a lot of our energy and our responsibilities that we have to take care of, obligations towards. That's fine. That's not someone who's toxic. That's someone you care about that you are giving a lot to. That's never toxic. It doesn't mean it's not exhausting. It doesn't mean it's easy because it's someone you care about. So do not equate those things because they're not equal. I'm talking about people that diminish your light, all right? You need to get them out. The other thing that we can do to diminish our endurance, to delay our endurance, is self-talk, is how we treat ourselves, is how we talk to ourselves. It's how we support ourselves. You hear me talk all the time to you about how we are really, really terrible teammates to ourselves, that we will say things to ourselves that we would never, ever, ever say to someone we care about. And yet, we are the one teammate we will always have. Every single run you go on, this is the teammate that will always go with you. I'm talking about you. You will always accompany yourself. So you have these voices in your head. Be a better teammate. Be a better coach. Be a better friend to yourself. Do that, and you will build greater endurance. Because I'll tell you what, late in a run, and again, I don't care if it's the 3rd minute of a 5-minute run, the 30th minute of a 50-minute run, or the 30th K of a 50K run, if you are being a terrible teammate to yourself, if you're being an awful coach to yourself, if you're being a bad friend to yourself, you will not have the endurance you need to be the best you could be. That's just the facts, baby. That's it. So if you think trashing yourself does anything but make you look like garbage and feel like garbage, you're wrong. You're just wrong. I get people all the time that say, I really need a coach who's going to yell at me and tell me I suck. No, you don't. No, you don't. You need to hear you suck to try harder. Maybe we need to pause for a little bit and think why you need to hear that you're terrible to try harder. Because I'll tell you what, I've been coaching for a long time. If you can fix that, you're going to run better. You're going to compete better. If you can get rid of this need to have somebody diminish you so you can shine, listen, let me tell you, it doesn't work the way you think it does, all right? You're basically not as good as you could be if you could just figure that out. Trash talking yourself is just trash talking yourself. It's not some, unbelievable rocket science where it's like, well, when I tell myself I suck or someone else tells me I suck, I don't suck. No, but you believe you do, don't you? Because if you didn't believe you sucked, you wouldn't need someone to tell you you suck, right? What's the point of somebody yelling at you lies? So anyway, I just get bothered when people think, especially coaches who think that you have to say this stuff. I don't agree. And the coaches that I competed against in the past that used to think this, well, they, needless to say, their teams never beat the teams I was coaching. So what do you know? Anyway, let's keep moving on. All right, so self-talk, how you treat yourself, super important, can be a drain on your endurance, okay? The other thing is how you look at setbacks, how you look at bad races, how you look at tough performances, how you look at something like a goal, something that you had put out there and thought, I want this, all right? And it doesn't happen. I'm talking about when you're devastated by things not working out the way you had hoped, the way that you had wanted, the way that you had been working towards, okay? Your endurance will be tested in moments like that. And I think it's also super important to be okay with being devastated and be okay with having your heart broken when things don't work out. And don't let people around you say that whatever it was that you were after, that you were working towards, that you didn't achieve, that how you feel about it not working out is silly. I think I've told you this story before, coaching high school, that I would have parents around me sometimes say, why are they so upset? They're like 16. It's a race. And oh my gosh, are you kidding me? Like, just what an asinine thing to say. What a totally asinine thing to say. They had worked towards this. They had a passion for it. They had put themselves out there and were vulnerable when they set these goals. And it didn't work out. And they're crushed. And their hearts are broken. And guess what? I know you're going to say, well, this isn't that big of a deal. There's more important things that are going to happen in life. Yeah, when they happen. But right now, this is right up there as the most important thing that's happening. So don't tell them that what's happening doesn't matter. And that's my way of telling you, if you're disappointed, it's okay to be disappointed. And if your heart's broken, it's okay that your heart is broken. Because I'll tell you what, the heart's a muscle. And you know how muscles get bigger and stronger? They need to be broken down. And once they're broken down, they rebuild. And when they rebuild, they come back stronger. They come back bigger. So don't look at a heart being broken as proof that the heart isn't working the right way. No, a broken heart is proof that your heart is working the right way, that you are putting yourself out there, that you are passionate about things, that you care. And guess what? If you care about anything, something, someone, some point your heart's going to break. That's the gig. That's the rules. And it's proof that your heart is working. That's all I'm going to say. Other than, don't delay the healing by pretending you're not hurting. All right? It's just like any other injury. When your heart breaks, you're injured. Okay? That's all right. There's nothing wrong with that. You just have to acknowledge the injury and not put yourself in situations where you're going to do more damage to the injury. Now, if you're hurt in running, let's say, you get a stress fracture, you don't run on it in order for it to heal. You give it space, you give it time, you nurture it, you take care of it, you allow it to heal, right? It's the same thing with a broken heart. Give it time, take care of it, all right? Be patient with that patient. So that's all I'm just going to say about that. You don't need to delay healing, all right? And you can't rush healing, but you can slow it down, and you can also make sure it doesn't heal. So be smart. And here are a few things that you can do, I think, to aid in that type of recovery. You can set new goals. You can reset old goals, and you can have little goals. You can have big-ass goals, and these goals can be incorporated into so many different things. And I'll tell you what, those goals aid in endurance, because endurance is not just about the physical running. It's also not just about the mindful aspects of running while you're running. Endurance is also being there in the game for the long run. It's about showing up day after day after day. It's the endurance to continue showing up, even when you don't feel like showing up. That's also how you build endurance, by having the endurance just to be there, to try again, to not quit, to realize that it's not over when we stop. It's over when we stop starting over. And you need great endurance to be able to do that. So when I see athletes out there and I say, she's got some endurance, I'm not just talking about the fact that she can run for 15K without stopping. What I'm talking about is she has the ability to keep showing up at the flippin' starting line when things aren't going great. That she has the ability to have a tough day at work and still show up at a starting line for practice. That she has the ability to deal with setbacks and not make them step backs. I'm talking about the ability to set goals, plural, and not a goal, just because the first goal didn't work out. About having that mindset that within even a short recovery run, you can be achieving multiple goals. That it's not just about running for 20 minutes or 2 miles. That it can be about having better self-talk. That it can be about exploring a new place, having the endurance to come up with new reasons and purposes for running. That's a component of endurance. It's finding weaknesses and saying, I have the endurance to take on these weaknesses. I have the endurance to try to strengthen my strengths, which is very difficult to do. So understanding that endurance means so many different things is a really important aspect to understanding how you can increase endurance, okay? Just like so many other things like inspiration and motivation and hope, these words that we talk about, you're not always operating at a full tank. That's the other thing I think is really important. You're not always operating at a full tank, which means don't put yourself in a position and run out of gas on the side of the road. You know what I mean? Be a great coach, friend, and teammate to yourself, and check in on how you're doing with your hope. How are you doing with your confidence? How are you doing with your endurance? And what can you do to aid recharging, refilling? All right? And again, it comes back to the most important question a coach can ask an athlete, which is, how are you doing? How are you doing? And don't pigeonhole these words, especially a word like endurance, to mean, how are you doing? Well, when it comes to endurance, I can only run for 40 minutes. Well, no, that's not what I'm asking. I'm asking, do you have the capability to endure a run? Do you have the capability of getting through a speed workout? Do you have what it takes right now to last through a long run, considering what's going on in your life? All right? It's not just about the training and your fitness level in terms of running. It's about you as a person coming to the starting line. Okay? So just be aware of that and be a great coach to yourself. Now, I'm going to end with this. I know we're talking about endurance, and I gave you the two definitions. I'll repeat them again. Endurance, noun, definition 1, the ability to withstand hardship or adversity. Definition 2 of endurance, noun, the act or an instance of enduring or suffering. But I've also told you I'm a verbs guy, all right? I'm a verbs guy, which is why I want to give you the definition for endure, all right? Endure. Verb. Definition 2, right? I'm a definition 2 type of guy. Remain in existence. Last. Endure. Verb. Definition 2. Remain in existence. Last. See, one of the reasons why I love coaching this sport and being a part of this sport, when I see people increase their endurance in all these different ways, that mental, mindful, emotional endurance when they're out there on a run, when they're at home, when they bring that endurance that they've built up through running consistently and intelligently, they bring it into their life. When I see that fact that they can go for more minutes, meters, and miles, and all of that, and all that entails in terms of the increased endurance, what I'm thinking to myself is, there's someone that is proving to themselves and to others that they can endure, that they can remain in existence, that they can last. Because here's the thing, it's not always going to be easy. I know you know that, but sometimes we need to tell ourselves it's not always going to be easy, and right now may not be easy. Right now may be really, really hard. And this is where your endurance comes in. This is where you tell yourself, I can endure. I can remain in existence because I can withstand hardship and adversity. I can last. I can last through the act or instance of enduring or suffering because I can endure. That's what I've built up, getting to these starting lines, crossing them, making my way through a run, getting to a finish line, and then finding another starting line. It's proof that you can endure. Take that from this episode. If you take anything, take that. You can endure. You can remain in existence. You can last. That's badass. That's the message I wanted to give you here at the end. You can endure. If you run, you have endurance. If you have endurance, you can endure. So, until next time, take care of yourself, take care of each other, and I will meet you on the next starting line. Thank you so much for listening to Coach Bennett's podcast today. And if you're not already following or subscribed to the podcast on whatever platform you're listening, well, I really wish you would because it helps a lot. Also, check out the show notes because you'll find a link to Coach Bennett's newsletter, as well as all the social media sites that I'm on. Places like Threads and Facebook and Instagram and Mastodon and YouTube, and even the artist formerly known as Twitter. Whatever that dumpster fire is called today, you'll find a link to it because I'm on there. Thank you so much again for listening, and until next time, take care of yourself.